Fox and Friends Weekend. Fortune Magazine's Nina Easton and Charles Lane, opinion writer for The Washington Post. Well, a lot to cover today. First of all, the email investigation, what we're learning, how it's being handled on the trail, and the impact. Tucker.
Well, I mean, it's just a lot to unpack. In fact, there's so much to unpack that I think were Hillary Clinton to get elected, it would be a significant problem for her. I mean, there's so many emails, there's so much information.
As far as like a case to be brought against her going
into the next 6 months, a year. I mean, the number of reporters who are looking at this carefully is relatively small relative to the amount of information there is. And so every time you turn around, the Peter Kadzic story is unbelievable. The coordination, apparently, between government agencies and non-government agencies, i.e. the Clinton campaign and the parallel groups around it, is astounding, and it seems to be prima facie evidence of corruption. But there's no time to go through it because there's another thing going on. It's really bad, and I can just tell you this: the Clinton people are the numbers are getting away from her, it looks like. Doesn't mean she's going to lose, but this is not going according to plan. It's not going according to the predictions of everyone who's been watching this, who also have a vested interest in seeing their own predictions play out. It's moving in very unexpected ways, and their behavior, if you watch the president today on the trail, invoking the KKK, as if that's some sort of meaningful part of American society. It's farther than I've ever seen a president go on behalf of a candidate, ever, and it's a measure of how very worried they are, really worried.
What about, speaking of the president, what about his comments today about that email investigation, and considering what he said back in October of 2015 about not being a national security threat?
Yeah, I think the president feels like he has to thread a very fine needle, but come out in support of Hillary. She's got all of these problems
without
going
obstructing
on.
justice.
And she's got all of these email issues going on. It's important to note that there are two buckets of email issues. There's the Comey investigation of her email private server and what he said last Friday, which is one issue, which the president was addressing. But there's a second issue, which are these WikiLeaks dumps that keep coming out, which are causing a headache for her. And
there's actually a third with the Clinton Foundation and all of the...
Yes, there's that as well. So, I think it's important to note on the WikiLeaks issue that this is intelligence officials believe a Russian-directed hack into computers to dump that, and I think it's really important to keep reminding people and viewers of that Russia is behind these WikiLeaks dumps, and that that if we were sitting here talking, if WikiLeaks decided to go after Donald Trump's tax returns, we'd be having a different conversation. So I think that's just important to put on the table. That said, I think Tucker is absolutely right that if Clinton becomes President Clinton, we are going to see a Republican House conduct major investigations of her on all of these fronts. Keep in mind that impeachment proceedings begin in the House with filing charges. I think this time next year, you're going to be looking at a Republican House looking at ways to file charges against her. It then moves to the Senate, where you need a 2/3 vote to determine guilt, and it's going to be a close Senate, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, Congressman McCall, Homeland Security Chairman, talked about that possibility today. We should point out that the intelligence community is of a consensus that Russia is somehow linked to this, but obviously different groups have pushed back against that. Chuck.
Yeah, it's she must be the first person in history to have to run for president under fire from both Russian intelligence and the FBI at the same time. I don't know if that's ever happened before.
The substance of what we're learning, though, about these investigations.
Well, I think it is... the substance, to me, is still the same. It's still... We learned nothing out of Comey's letter except that they found more emails on Huma Abedin's computer. Okay.
Yeah. Well, today we learned that two computers that we thought possibly were destroyed, Cheryl Mills and Heather Samuelson's, were not destroyed and are currently in the FBI office here in Washington, D.C. being exploited. We also learned that they are going through Anthony Weiner's emails on that laptop at a breakneck pace, and that they have found some emails tied to Hillary Clinton's server already that they believe are new.
Yes,
and we also learned that the Clinton Foundation investigation is far more extensive than anybody has characterized.
Well, so what we know is that we are having more dribs and drabs of an ongoing investigation coming out from the FBI in real time, which is what the way things are not supposed to be conducted. I understand that Hillary sort of demanded that in some way, but everything you're describing, if I'm not wrong, is from leaks, right? None of this is coming out officially.
No, it's not being put out in a press release, no.
Exactly, and I think that's a troubling development. I also think what this is doing is distracting. It's totally distracting from all the things that are, just 2 weeks ago we were learning about Donald Trump talking about sexually assaulting people on a bus. All of that has gone by the wayside, which is tremendously to his advantage, and that, to me, is the main impact of all this, is political, not substantive.
And where they're traveling to and what they're doing tells us a lot about the campaign.
It does. And can I say something in the interest of factual accuracy? We don't know that the Russian government is behind these leaks. We just don't know that. And there are some people who allege it. Obviously, the Clinton campaign has an interest in alleging that. But as a factual matter, that is not known.
Does the American intelligence community have
that is not. That the Russian government, no, that is not a certainty, and we are betraying our journalistic charge by presenting it as one when it is not. We don't know that the government of Vladimir Putin is behind this. We just don't. I mean, is it some Russian teenager in Moldova doing this? I mean, we just don't know the answer. I'll tell you what we do know is that as journalists, we're assessed with the accuracy. Is it true or not? And not one document produced by WikiLeaks over the past 8 years has been proven untrue. So why is our speculation about Russia more important than that fact?
All right, we got to run there. That's it for the panel. Then Vice President Biden looking at